Good night, everybody. Welcome to Looking Deeper with Sandy Herrick and Denise King Francisco. It's great to have you all with us tonight. We're happy to have you here. Good evening, Sandy. How is it out there in New Hampshire at Unicorn Fields?
We have the most beautiful late evening drizzle. It's definitely headed into fall. It does not feel like summer anymore. It's kind of an Indian summer, and it's beautiful. So I'm going to bring my water out to the deck and sit on the deck with you in the dark and listen to the rain. Sounds
Lovely.
like a good place for environment. Yeah. I'm blowing out the candles. I just taught a class. I had my women's group here, which I love, love, love. And I'm ready to, I'd say rock and roll, but I'm too tired. I'm ready to move with the groove. That's what I'm ready to do.
Well, good. It's good to hear your voice. And I really like the topic that we picked for tonight. Actually, you picked the topic for tonight.
Yes.
And
yes.
So do you want to talk about why?
Yeah, because I think it's legitimate to say that there are so many individuals that are in crisis or entering crisis change that are wanting to re-examine or find a way to make sense of things that are happening in their life or want to have happen in their life, or why isn't it happening in their life? All those things. And my clients are very fascinating right now because everybody's on a learning curve. Everybody's gone deeper. And I deeply, I'm getting organized out here. And you can imagine, I just want to say, you can imagine what it looks like. The deck has that silver light on it from the evening coming in, and the pool is dancing with raindrops and the trickling of the water down through the gutters. It's just charming. So back to why I wanted to think about this and talk about that is because it's really normal to experience doubt. And I think doubt now has become a word that freezes us rather than gives us the opportunity to think that we need a pause or we haven't got the answer yet. And there's a lot of shame with doubt.
The old what happened to your faith?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and because you're working with so many teaching and elevating the spiritual connected conduits or the psychic connection or this, that, and the other thing. And what do people say the most? I don't trust my intuition. I doubt what I'm hearing, or I doubt I know what to do, all that stuff. So that's why I would love to bring it up.
I think it's fantastic. And just so everyone knows, the chat room is open at Spreaker. And the link is, of course, there on the Looking Deeper fan page on Facebook and also on my Facebook page right there for you to come on in. It's always great in the chat room. We're going to talk about when doubt steals our faith. It's amazing how we can have the strength of a lioness until all of a sudden there's a crack in the force field. And all of a sudden we can find ourselves spiraling and spinning out of control into the realm of doubt and doom and gloom. And it's always amazing for me anyway when I spiral into those places. It's almost as though I need to do that and find a plateau.
Yes.
And from that plateau realize, hey, wait a minute here.
Right.
How do you process doubt, Sandy, when a crisis comes up?
Well, I want to come back to you after I answer this because you put a lot of energy into that answer, and how do you finally plateau? And so I'll answer and then I'll come back to you. It depends on what I'm doubting, quite frankly. And I think that that's an honest answer in the way that if I'm doubting something profound because I am frightened to make a decision, or I don't know how to make a decision, then I go into those places of I feel why don't I know? How come I can't figure this out? What's wrong with me? Or what, the shame, the blame, it kind of wipes out my memory or my stability in anything pre-existing that moment. That would say, I knew what I was doing. My dog's got a plastic container here. I know it's so tasty, but you can't eat it. Our little girl here, Ralph, our American bloodhound, has doubled in size. She's got legs like a gazelle, and I can hardly wait until her body catches up to it.
Oh, that's
We're
funny.
in trouble! And of course, she's teething, so all the furniture and shoes are the much better choice than her toys.
Absolutely. I know how that goes. Aww.
Yeah, we love her so much, and she's still brand new. We only have her a month plus, and it's she's learning, and she's a good kid. So it's true that it depends on what it is. If it's very, very serious, and I doubt myself, I need to remember I'm not alone, and it takes maybe a while for me to start remembering that this would be a good time to pray. I don't always pray. I have conversations with God or Spirit or the Divine Mother, but prayer means right back down to in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting when that ground that I would stand on would take me to my childhood, where as a child there was something comforting in knowing I was given words to say. I didn't have to think up of something. Mm-hmm. So I'm building on that. And that's why I really love the, I'm there, go there. So when I'm in that desperateness, I need to remember, go there. Go really pray. Mm-hmm. And also, I'm a child of God. I'm in God's light. I'm in the power and the protection of the Lord. And if I'm in doubt of my connection to Spirit, because I want to talk about that too. Am I in doubt about what I'm going to do? Am I going to buy a car? Am I going to buy a house? Am I going to have a relationship? Am I going to break up my marriage? Am I going to go shopping and buy something I don't need? Am I in doubt that Spirit knows I exist? Am I in doubt of what I even believe in? I mean, these are the categories of doubt that drew Steele our spiritual connection. So out of all those, was any of those categories something you would like to touch on?
Well, what is the go-to when all of a sudden your faith is in doubt, or you're doubting your intuition, or you're doubting that you know how to handle this, or rather than doubt, you're sure everything is just running amok and out of control. And so coming to the place of, holy smokes, hold on a minute, things are not running amok and out of control unless I allow them to. Dana, you need to sit a minute here, gather your wits about you, and do what you know to do. And as you said, one of the most important things that I've learned in my decades is realizing that we don't have to go through things alone. We can reach out. There are people, and as you and I, being raised Catholic, know that there are prayers that we were taught that if nothing else, comfort us, or if we feel as though we're casting out a lifeline for help. So a lot of times I think the biggest doubt and fear is, oh my God, I'm in this alone and I don't think I can handle it alone. And reaching the plateau of thinking, but you're not alone.
Right.
Let's go
and
there.
And that's where it steals our spirituality, to have all that angsting or that self-infliction of, you inflict pain. We inflict pain on ourselves because somewhere along the line we thought we had to know everything, or we should figure everything out. How come we can't handle this? Mm-hmm. And that is an interesting type of thing that we haven't been given a lot of space to have doubt as being healthy. When I see at times doubt is healthy, that it's if I don't know what I'm supposed to do, maybe do nothing. If anybody saw my 2 photographs on Facebook of my kitchen and my living room, I was kind of in doubt.
You mean that tornado scene?
Yeah.
I saw them.
Yeah, and it's fun. I actually called you during that.
You did. In the middle of it, you called.
And said, here, I'm going to send you some photographs. This is where I am. And the grabbing hold of the chaos for me was seeing that I needed to do something that brought me out of chaos, and that was to make it and organize it, and that it was functional. I could clean the refrigerator, and then I could clean the cabinets as I'm doing that. And I just grabbed everything all at once, the way my mind works, knowing that no matter how big the mess, it all went back, and it was clean and orderly, and it gave me the opportunity to work something through without having to think something through. I washed windows, I washed floors, I pulled rugs back, and it was to get the clutter that actually was almost like the clutter hiding in my mind that I didn't clean out because I wasn't thinking clearly, or there were so many other obstacles in the way of me thinking that they weren't all my thoughts anymore. I was overloaded with too much stimulation from the outside, and my identity was starting to become stifled. And I don't want to blow. I do have a tendency to blow. And this was not a blowing. This was just blow something else up, Sandy, and put it back in. And that was not prayer. It wasn't even leaning on spirit. It was leaning on a familiar in me. And I think it's important for everybody to know that sometimes we doubt who we are. And if you know something about you, you can lean on it and pull it out. Do you garden? Do you clean house? Do you need to drive? Do you do laundry? And it's not about being manic. It's about being a little ritualistic to get you out of the chaos. That something is systematic now. It's almost putting the pieces of the chaotic puzzle. Oh, there's a color, it belongs over here. Oh, there's a color, it belongs over here. Oh, it looks like something's happening. And that's faith in my eyes are finding something I can connect to.
I like that. So, what you're talking about is how when you're filled with doubt in a moment of trauma or drama or uncertainty, how do you find clarity? What is your way of finding clarity? What is it that you can do that feels so familiar, that grounds you?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That grounds you into a place of clarity, right, so that you can begin to say, okay, it's time to pull myself up by the bootstraps. And for some people, letting go of excess energy, whatever the circumstance is that brings us to our knees sometimes, whatever the excess energy of any of that is, we have to have a way of diffusing it.
Exactly. Because we can drive ourselves mad.
Yes.
And when we're mad, our spirit is stolen because the madness steals our identity and steals our connection from I'm known. Spirit knows me. What does it know about me? And what spirit knows about me is just like what you say. When you hit that bottom, when you really experience the touchstone of bottom, it's like, oh, I can breathe. Oh, if I'm still, I'm not fighting the wave can go over me. And we have to learn about the electrical capacity that we all have that will either charge us up amp us up and give us adrenaline, or blow up our mind and deteriorate our ability to think straight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Isn't it something too, Sandy? You and I have been on this road of metaphysics, spirituality, mysticism, call it what you will, for, I would say, your whole life. I know certainly my whole life. And even to this day, there can be situations that crop up for me that will bring something up inside of me that all of the 56 years of whatever it is that I'm here to do and I've been doing, all of a sudden goes away. And
Exactly.
Where does that go? And sometimes it's something really, really big. And sometimes it can be something that touches perhaps an unhealed part of our psyche or of our experience, that everything that we know to be true in the universe goes right out the damn door.
Right.
And doubt comes knocking and says, see, you
Right.
thought you knew so much, but when it comes right down to it, you don't know nothing.
Exactly.
Ever have that?
Exactly. And that happens when we're triggered.
Yeah.
When a wound gets triggered. And I think it's very important for us to talk about this because we all have major wounds that when they are touched, we could become paralyzed, we're stymied, we're confused, we're traumatized again. It is a form of PTSD. Even if you haven't gone to war, we've lived through wars in our family. We lived through chaos growing up. We lived through ancestral chaos, community chaos. Going to school is chaotic and traumatizing. So these wounds in us that siphon our sense of self-worth. Because when doubt comes in, what is most attacked is my own self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a good caretaker of me when that happens. And I certainly don't need anybody to beat me up because I'm the first one in line doing a much better job than anybody else could ever do.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to kind of own that those patterns not only get revisited, but how the wound was inflicted starts to feel like it's happening again, and that there's been no movement whatsoever in our healing or our growing up or in our knowing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's one of those onion layer things.
It certainly is. And, when we're talking about doubt, those are those questions that crop up about, am I capable? Is there someone here to help me? Is this the end of the line? Is my life going to change? Am I going to change? Will I have enough? Et cetera, et cetera. And those doubts, those questions creep in. And then we muster up a place within ourselves that we can say, where we can say, but there's more to the story here. There's a much larger picture.
Right.
So in that much larger picture, I believe, is where faith lies. And Sandy, if somebody says to you, Sandy, what is your faith? Describe your faith. How would you respond to that?
That's one of those questions that is good news and bad news. Because when I was asked that younger, in the trepidations of becoming spiritual, it actually gave me shame and doubt of how do I explain something I don't quite know enough about, but I feel it. It's calling me. I yearn for it. And leaving the church or leaving a structured religion and going out into Never Never Land felt very shameful and doubtful of how I could explain it. And so many of you that are listening to us, you have told Dana and I that, well, we're criticized. Well, the people I live with don't believe in it. Well, my parents think I'm, evil, or I'm getting accused of being a witch. I mean, these are things that both Dana and I have gone through in the growing up process and still could get accused of. And so now It's that place of, what is my faith? My faith is in universal understanding. It's in that energy is energy. We're bigger than we understand. I believe in holiness. I believe in sacredness. I believe in God, but not as a man, not as a bearded person up there. I believe in Christ energy. I believe in Buddha. I believe in a collection of realities that serve where I need to be in the moment that I need to be there. Because I will go visit Susan Brown and have a gong bath. I will go visit the meditation room and chant or pray. I will go into the pool and float and just be a part of nature. It's not always the same practice, but I believe what I believe in when I get reconnected to the simplicity of knowing we are not alone. I believe in spirit. I believe that we can speak to it, and it wants to speak to us. And I believe that I am always learning, and I believe that I don't have to be frightened of God or be obedient in a way that if I don't follow all the rules, I'll be shunned and damned and sent to hell. I believe in the fact of karma, and I really believe in, as you all know, accountability. Owning who and what and how, and the process of self-learning, self-knowing. So that's a big answer, and it covers most of it. What about you?
Well, for me, when I describe my faith, or I know what I'm faithful to, is I am faithful to the fact that I know by my experiences or through the experiences of my life,
exactly,
that miracles happen, that the unseen world is every bit as real and actually more authentic than the physical world.
Yep.
And so it's my experience of 56 years that really has become my faith. It's the faith in what I know to be true.
Right.
And that's always expanding.
Right.
It's always expanding. And so when I have doubt, that delves into a place of those times in my life where I didn't know, I hadn't yet learned, and it piques that. And so the question then is, but now you know differently. You know that there can be a different outcome. You know that there are allies in spirit. You know that prayer is powerful. You know that love is powerful. You know, Dana, that everything happens for a reason. Everything. And that 2020 sight is far more clear, or looking back with 2020 vision, is far more clear than sometimes being present in the now.
Exactly. And I agree with you. The track record of, no matter how bad it's ever been, I've gotten through it, or something's happened, and change is consistent. To know that change is not a bad thing, and you're not being punished when change comes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's nature. It's human nature.
Yes. And, you know, the term keeping the faith, well, keep the faith. Keep on keeping on. Well, sometimes that can be a lot easier said than done in our life. And so for those people that have, you know, studied and have vast libraries of knowledge and are credentialed all over Timbuktu, sometimes there is so much shame in, you know, when I was needed most, I had doubt. I don't believe that there should be any shame whatsoever with doubt, because oftentimes the doubt that comes up is revealing something to us that needs to have attention paid to it.
Exactly. And for me, like I said in the beginning, doubt is a pause.
Yes.
Way back when, one of the great things that I heard was, if you can't make a decision, decide not to make one. And that is a decision. Just
right.
Decide not to decide. And And that is a decision to give yourself time out from having to know, because doubt can be healthy. Doubt can be, and it's the difference between, okay, I'm talking spiritually when people say, well, I doubt what I receive when I hear messages or hear voices. I doubt that I'm getting the psychic information, and I doubt what I see. Well, that goes along with what you were just saying. That takes experience. That takes developing a track record. Mm-hmm. That means if you do it enough and see that it works, or you're working it, then you can lean on it. You can see, oh, it does work, but you always want to pay attention and be attentive. Mm-hmm. If I'm doubting something in the universe with the practicality, I doubt if I know how to buy a house. I doubt if I know how to, get through an accident. I doubt I know. How do I handle my husband's disease? Am I, how do we, what is the doubt you're doubting? Because if I doubt that I know what I'm going to do tomorrow morning when I wake up, that's very different of what am I going to do this year because I have to face it. But it is about getting through day by day. Mm-hmm. And it is knowing that if you don't know, please, 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 because I do it myself. Dana does it with me. I do it with her. We do it with others. You ask to reach out and have some other set of eyes talk you through it. Mm-hmm. Not make up your mind for you. Mm-hmm. And I want you all to hear that. Don't surrender your choice to someone else. Mm-hmm. Ask. Mm-hmm. Explore. Mm-hmm. And or if you're going to talk to a psychic because you doubt what's going to do, and they say do it, think about, are you doing it because a psychic told you, or take information and say, I'll see how I feel about that. Mm-hmm. Or see when the information they're talking about starts to appear.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, the help that we're talking about is not just have somebody tell me my future, even though that can be helpful.
Right.
But your future still needs to catch up with you. Mm-hmm.
And you need to be a participant in your future.
Exactly.
I mean, if we doubt ourselves, it's always good to seek counseling or wise counsel, or, whether that's through meditation, becoming still, prayer, calling up a friend, whatever that happens to be, but we're still responsible. In keeping the faith, sometimes people will say, well, I've been so faithful. Why am I being tested like this?
Oh, yeah.
I have been a good and faithful servant. We hear that. Why am I being tested in this way? How do you answer that question?
Life is life, and you're not being punished. And being spiritual isn't a free ticket to get out of jail mm-hmm. or to get out of life. To be able to calm someone that's taking on the burden of that is actually, to me, a bit neurotic, because it means that you're assuming that your spirituality is freeing you from having to deal with some of the heavier consequences of just being alive. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't. Spirit and spirituality and faith is there to actually be with you side by side. Mm-hmm. So as these things happen and we go through it, we're with spirit, mm-hmm. not abandoned by spirit.
Mm-hmm. And don't you feel sometimes, Sandy, that, we're brought to those places in life where we think that we cannot possibly endure another moment, or that we're just not going to get through this situation, but we do. And I believe sometimes we're brought to those places in our life so that at some point perhaps we're able to help somebody else through something similar, or to be an example of hope that, this too shall pass, and you exactly. can get through this as well. I think it's so important for people, if they're willing and if they're comfortable, to share their stories, not to dwell in their story and, build a temple to the story, but to be able to share the story of their life and their happenings, because we never know who we are inspiring or who we are giving hope to in the sharing, because I hate to think that anything that I may have been through in my life was for naught. I don't believe I don't believe anything that we experience is for naught.
Exactly. A lot of as you know, 99.9% of my experience in life is my life experience.
Right.
And so that, to me, I lean on and share exactly from that same space of there's history. I know what someone may be feeling like in a situation that is similar to what I've gone through. Mm-hmm. And I said that their feelings may be like, because not everybody has the same feelings about the same situation. So we have to be careful about that. Mm-hmm. But to be able to say that you can get through it, because as that light is there as a candle in the dark or the lighthouse in the fog, it offers someone who may have been so in doubt that they should live. Mm-hmm. That there's any life worth living. Mm-hmm. And that is when doubt steals your sense of connection, that life is a miracle. Life is mystical. Life is chaotic, and life is something we make and makes us. It's not there as just to supply us with entertainment mm-hmm. and a place to be.
Mm-hmm. You know, Sandy, as it always goes, you and I have been doing this work together now for 11 years, going on 12 years. And we never know who's listening to the show or, you know, on any given week or month. And a couple of months ago, I had a woman reach out to me from the East Coast, and she said, you know, I listen to your show with Sandy every month, and I read your book, Embracing the Mystic Within. And she said, how do you feel about illness as sacred as sacred? And she said, the reason I'm asking is, she said, I know that you had a debilitating left brain stroke.
Right.
And you came through it. Your faith got you through it. And she said, my husband recently suffered a stroke, and he's not the same person. Right. And we're struggling with our faith in why is this happening to us? Would you ever talk, she said, about how illness can also be sacred and a sacred teacher? How do you feel about that concept, Sandy?
Well, I'm facing it.
Exactly.
I mean, my husband has terminal leukemia, and we just found out in June. And how I am facing it is that this is not a punishment. This is not a poor me. It's not even really a poor Bobby. It's, oh my God, here we are. Do I question why? Yes. But I am not angst. Do I look for reasons on how to maneuver through this? Every second. But the most important thing is to know life is filled with realities that shock the shit out of us mm-hmm. and make us feel uncomfortable, because what we feel is normal and safe is taken from us.
And in any of your experience of what you're going through right now, do you find yourself in sacred moments?
They are so tender and so beautiful. And to watch Bobby, who is inflicted, and I am the observer, participant, and I'm walking it with him, but this is his. And we're sharing the journey, but this is his. And when he speaks of heaven, when he speaks of where he feels he's going, knows he's going, when he says he's been waiting to get there, even since a child. My job is to love the man who is touching something he loves, and how he's getting there, we both have opinions about, or fears about, or doubt how we're going to manage our way through it. Because it is surprising, it is shocking, and the worst is yet to come. The difficulties are yet to come. I am not doubting Bobby's holiness when he shares it. I don't know what I will do when it happens, but I've been around death. I haven't had a deep, deep, deep companion, my husband, my love die, and other people have, and I will console with them. But I'm watching sacred envelop him, envelop me. I'm watching the tone of his voice struggle or soften. I'm watching and feeling and experiencing wisdom come through that, time's short. And he just said it today. Time is short. So we're not wasting time. And we're making time and making certain that we're living a quality of life, that we're not going to miss each other or deny each other. Which, in all due respect, is sharper than sometimes thinking, hey, we've got forever. We can take our times. I can bullshit. I don't have to love. I don't have to open my heart. I don't have to do this. I can still, it's like that's all getting wiped off the table. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And even Bobby says, what do we wait for? Why are the families coming together now? Why doesn't that just happen? Why does it take something like this? Weddings and funerals. Mm-hmm. So it's filled with sacredness, even in the hardship of trying to figure it out and being with it.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it is the way that we look at it and the ability to find the sacred, or we allow the sacred to come to us. We clear a path for the sacred to find us. And,
right.
And here it is. And also when it comes to illness and life-changing illnesses, we aren't the same.
Right.
We just aren't the same. And Holly in the chat room is saying she once had a PT tell her that people with illness become more intuitive because they're on a different wavelength.
Absolutely.
And I believe that to be true.
Well, their ego's kind of powered down.
Yes.
And they're more receptive.
Yes. Yes.
Their wounds are kind of softened, so they're listening on a different frequency. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. And I think, a lot of it is exactly what you are talking about and Bobby is talking about. Life is short. It is short. It is in the blink of an eye that we are here and we are gone, although sometimes it can feel that it's going on forever. But honestly, the older we get, probably it's a blessing to really understand that life is short and this ain't it.
No.
And there are a lot of people, their faith comes into a place of trauma because there are a lot of people who believe that this is it.
Right.
And then there are those who've always believed that this is it until they get toward the end and all of a sudden they realize, holy smokes, this ain't it. Right. How come I had to wait until the end to find out that this isn't the whole show?
Right.
So there are sacred moments and there are blessings, sometimes in the most excruciating experiences of our life. And we are forever changed, which, as you say, as the observer, you will be forever changed through this experience. And it would be sad if you weren't changed, because there is a lot of beauty going on here. And I hope that for you in your life with all of your friends, that they understand that Sandy is going to be different. She is different.
I will be integrating something that offers more to me that will share more with all.
Yes.
But I've gotten very quiet. Mm-hmm. My work with people is so deep, it's sharper. The clients are fascinated and fascinating. But I also want to come back to this person who reached out to you, because a stroke, and if it doesn't repair, is a part of the person has died. A part of the image of the person has altered. Mm-hmm. And so the familiar has been removed. And the person that has to be affected by that, the caregiver, can get worn down. Mm-hmm. Truly have many, 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 many confusing feelings, harsh, good, and ugly, about why did this happen? Where did my love go? And is this it? This is it for the rest of our lives? Mm-hmm. Because you've lost the person, and they're right there in front of you.
Exactly. It reminds me of, well, you know my friend Darlene. And,
absolutely.
You know, at that time of my life, Darlene, who's a dear friend, she was my caregiver. I mean, God bless her. She took me grocery shopping. She drove me wherever I needed to go. And I realized at that time, and as we grew older together, that it was hard for her because as her friend, I was never going to be the same.
Right.
And it's exactly what you're saying, that as the observer, as the observee, the one being observed, we're never the same. And so sometimes with doubt, there's an element of grief. And grief can sometimes take us to a very deep state of reclaiming our faith. Because sometimes that's all that we have, is what we know in our soul to be true, not what social media tells us to be true or any other person, but what our soul knows to be. We go through the dark night of the soul sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And grief is different for someone who's alive, mm-hmm. that has altered in a way that the loss of the familiar personality doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. That is a death. Mm-hmm. And it's also a major inconvenience on a very complicated level, because you're now no longer living with someone, you're living for someone for as long as they live.
Right.
And you have those decisions to make. Do you get care? Do you get, do you put them into a home? It depends on the disability. It depends on the structure of your own ability to care for someone. Mm-hmm. Or to say, I can't do this anymore. Mm-hmm. And that is a very large doubt. Mm-hmm. Are you a good person if you do that, mm-hmm. and say no?
Right.
And that if you have to come to that place, you're not judged at being bad. You're experiencing what you are and are not able to honestly do.
Right. Some people do lose their faith.
You betcha.
And some people lose their faith for a great good long amount of time, and some people never regain it until the end days. And that's okay. There's no shame in losing your faith.
What I think is pretty powerful is that the universe doesn't care.
Right.
That it's so vast and so big and there and holds us in a way that is even greater than we understand. It doesn't care if you lose faith with it. It does not abandon us. Mm-hmm. It still gives us air. It still gives us daylight. It still gives us the ability to think or interact. And one of the great things that I always cry about is, especially when I was working with the Special Olympics, to know that I had everything that made my body work. And I'm watching people become champions that have lost limbs and have crisis, and their character, their spirit is so deep and vast. Their competition ability is so intense that I'm more handicapped than they are. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And to see them champion their disability and be a part of life, that gives me faith to have faith.
Mm-hmm. Right. And sometimes, finding faith is a friend or somebody who just says, well, today I had a conversation with Elise. She's having some complications with her pregnancy. And, she was in a space today and yesterday mostly yesterday of absolute devastation. And you know how we get to those places and we experience devastation. We should never deny anyone the experience of allowing the devastation to flow through.
Exactly.
And then comes, the quiet, the eye of the storm piece. And so I went over there today, and there she was sitting out on the stoop wearing her Georgia Bulldog t-shirt with her dog sitting there and her big old belly hanging out. And I said, good Lord, look at you. And I started to laugh. And she couldn't stop, she couldn't help herself. She started to laugh too. And I said to her in our conversation, I said, Elise Marie, as a woman, as a mother, this is the place where you dig down deep, and every ounce of tenacity, every ounce of courage that you can muster, now's the time to do that.
Right.
And she just looked at me, and, she sometimes has kind of spicy language, as you know. And I said,
I do.
Yeah, you do know. And, she cut loose that way. And I said, and if that's the way that you have to find your tenacity and you regain your faith and you are no longer doubting yourself and your ability here, then that's what needs to happen. Because sometimes in reclaiming our faith or finding our way, we can wallow too long, and sometimes we need somebody to say, dig deep.
Right.
And not in a cruel way. Yeah.
Snap out of it.
Right, but allowing the process, because doubt, self-doubt, dredges up so many things. Why is this happening? Who am I going to be? What if? Who am I now? And sometimes somebody does have to, and there I am as the mom, to say, this is the time as a woman where you reach deep down inside. And every ounce of tenacity in your little teeny tiny body, that's what you need now.
Right.
So, so that by the time I left, we were having great conversation and she was smiling and giggling and all of that, and still, dropping some F-bombs. But
as she should, says little Auntie Sandy.
Yeah, exactly. That sweet little Virgo that she is. But sometimes we do need somebody who says, okay, yes, this is happening. There's not anything we can do about the happening. Everything happens for a reason. And now let's keep on keeping on. And the rubber is still on the road, so let's go.
Right.
But I don't think that denying, going through the feelings of any of that self-doubt, we need to process that.
Right. There's a reason why we have emotions. And the spectrum of emotions. There's reasons why one must call the mother and the grandmother to come and talk to the mother and have the baby hear you. Mm-hmm. There's the reason why we need the time to reach out, and that is because we need to be given wisdom when we doubt that we have any common sense. Mm-hmm. We need to hear experience when we think that this has never happened to anybody else, I'm all alone. Right. We need to hear that there's more to life than what we are stuck in that moment, fearful. This is the only thing that there is. Mm-hmm. And then we're eased, not from the doubt, through it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it just gives that extra sense of comfort, or even just relief from the doubt.
Yes. Sometimes it takes a moment, sometimes longer than a moment, to clear your head, to clear your thoughts. Yeah. And sometimes that means cleaning your house. I mean, for me, as you know, it means sweeping floors.
Yep.
And clearing out the clutter. If there's just too much going on, you know, my cousin Corey will be up here next month. She's coming up from Florida.
Oh my goodness, congratulations!
So she will see what her cousin Dana does. You know, I am a floor cleaner. Anybody who's been to my home knows that I have marvelous floors. And it's not really an OCD thing at all. It's exactly what you said. It's diffusing energy.
Exactly.
It's a way for me to clear my mind.
Yep.
And it's a way for me to bring myself back to center by doing something so mundane.
Yeah, it's a perfect meditation.
It's a perfect meditation. And it brings me back to the reality that, you know, whatever's going on, you still got to clean your house. You still got to keep on keeping on. And back to center we go.
And doubt does need to be acknowledged, that if it lingers too long and activates depression,
yes, then
you doubt you can even get up.
Yes.
And that's serious doubt, because that's what depression is actually stimulated by. The doubt that you have the right to exist, the doubt that you can get through this, the doubt there's anything worth anything you can be or do, the doubt that life would even allow you to live it.
Yes.
So
that's a big one.
It's a big topic.
It's a big topic. When it comes to faith, I think that word faith typically for most people conjures up the thoughts of religion. And sometimes one of the greatest doubts that I see with people is when they begin to doubt their religious faith. That maybe there's another way. Maybe there are many ways. And maybe, you know, what they've been fed all along is a big old, you know, bag of horse pucky. And so the crisis of faith, in questioning faith, is a doozy.
Well, it's healthy in some way.
Yes.
It's healthy to have an opinion. It's
yes.
healthy to question. It's healthy to get angry at God.
Yeah.
I mean, it's healthy to throw your fists in the air and say, what the... And, you know, it's a stimulating conversation, because it also means that doubt sometimes is frozen anger. I am angry. I don't know what to do. And when you get depressed, depression is literally compressed anger. And the fear that if you do get angry, it's going to be all over. It'll explode. There'll be too much. And people can't get angry. When, in all due respect, if you're allowed to express your anger or your confusion, then you're not held prisoner by the emotion that makes you feel doubt. And I think it's beautiful the way you and Elise, you know, can have those harsh words, those meaningful words, those tender words, and the reactivating of the identity of, you dig in because you're a mother now. You're not waiting to become one. You are one.
Yes. Yes. And that comes with experience, as we've been talking about. And I looked at her and I said, you know, as I'm standing here in front of you and my grandson, I have two of you to think about.
That's right.
As a mother and a grandmother. And it just dawned on her. And I said, I have enough miles on my odometer to know that this too shall pass. And whatever is supposed to be is going to be. And whatever it is that Easton experiences in his birth, in his life, then that is what was meant to be. And I'm not saying we're willy-nilly, but what I am saying is that every experience of being us, even as we're becoming us, is valid. It has a reason, it serves a purpose, and it changes us.
And we gear up.
You got it.
You really do. We gear up.
Yeah.
And especially when love gets there. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh my God, when we let love steal, or doubt steal our love, mm-hmm. that or the right to feel love for God, love for the universe, love for our faith, love for ourselves, love for our loved one, and that doubt stops us thinking that we're even capable of loving. And I believe that it's okay to stop loving long enough to find out how you love, or is it worth loving what it is that's keeping you in doubt. Sometimes you have to give up what you think you love and let it go, so you're not doubting, should I waste my time? Do I have time? It's like, wait a second. Where are you really? What are you feeling really? Mm-hmm. And why are you feeling it?
Yeah. Doubt
and emotion
is
an inconvenience. I will acknowledge that. But the good ones are really exciting.
Exactly. Doubt raises questions, and it should raise questions, just as you said. For me, when I have a moment of doubt, behind that doubt is a question. Maybe it's many questions. Maybe it's something that I haven't really wanted to think about, or maybe it has been there so long and buried so deep that whatever has brought me to a moment of doubt has also brought about an opportunity for healing or reflection or contemplation.
You betcha.
Growth.
Yes.
Because I believe that ultimately our faith expands and it grows deeper, by whatever definition we define faith. Yeah.
I think to simplify it, doubt is the fear of not knowing what's going to happen when the change takes place.
Yes.
I think that should be a quote.
I like that. And those doubts, when you have a doubt about a person or a doubt about a situation.
Yeah.
And why didn't I see that coming? For heaven's sake, Sandy, how could I not have seen that coming? I am going to doubt my intuition. I'm going to doubt my ability to choose a partner, because clearly I have done a crappy job. And so I doubt that I will ever choose the proper man, because so far it just hasn't worked out. Have you ever heard that before?
From my own lips.
Yeah. Right.
And if anybody says that they haven't, they're lying.
Exactly. So in your 72 years almost.
Yeah, I know. TikTok.
Yeah. And talking about doubt and why we doubt our ability to choose a partner or whatever. Do you feel, am I okay in saying that perhaps that doubt arises from an experience or a pattern in your blood and your bones that's been set about choosing a poor partner or an antagonizing partner or an unhealed partner that reflects the unhealed you? How do you explain that? When somebody says, Sandy, I doubt that I could ever do XYZ because clearly my track record with that just stinks. What's the matter with me?
Well, that then, for me, has only one answer. Do your personal work.
There you go.
You need to go deeper. You need to get beyond what it is that the hurt is making you choose wrong or stay in pattern. You need to be reliant with great determination that if you're in pattern, you need to respect that this is a pattern, and to go to a therapeutic or a situation that can help you to unravel that is mandatory. Because we can heal, we can learn, we can be bigger than what it is that keeps us from feeling our life. And there's that beauty of knowing that when you do go, okay, when you know, oh God, I doubt I'll ever be able to make the choice. Well, that's actually a good revelation, or a revelation. I've got to let the cat in. A good observation, because it means that you're in the trauma and you're traumatized and you don't trust yourself. You doubt you know how to choose or attract. That's when you do your healing. That's when you do the reevaluation. Mm-hmm. That's when you say, this button's broken.
Mm-hmm.
And do I throw it out, or do I fix it? Sometimes we've got to throw it out. We throw the pattern out by looking at it and choosing not to go back to it.
Exactly. And there's always the question of faith, or the doubt of faith, that goes something like this. Where was God when? Where were my angels when? Where were they? Okay, I was taught we all have a guardian angel. Well, I think that mine has left me high and dry. And by the way, I'm pretty sure that God has left me too. Because I'm out here in the desert, I'm in the middle of the dark night of the soul, and there wasn't anybody or anything that came to find me or that answered my call. Ever hear that?
Oh, yeah. And when I have been in those places, it took time for whatever it was to get to me, or to get me through what it was that I was doubting, or to learn that it was bigger than I could figure out in that moment, because the overwhelm was so incredibly thorough.
Mm-hmm.
And the paralysis at that moment in my life, or the times when I was paralyzed by life itself, the track record of that is that when God said, lay down and stay down, I had to learn that meant lay down and stay down. Mm-hmm. And let my ego or my falsehood of, I better stand up, I better figure this out. It's, no, you better lay down and stay down. Let this roll over you. Mm-hmm. Heal. Mm-hmm. Be quiet. You have no strength left. Recover. Mm-hmm. Because your mind isn't smart enough to figure this out. Let the universe take this one.
Yeah.
Let time take this one.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes, don't you believe, Sandy, at least in my mind and in my journey, I believe that sometimes there isn't a response to the call. There isn't a big show of grace that happens, because I believe that sometimes we feel that we're out there in the desert by ourselves. And, you know, one of my favorite quotes, being the book nerd that I am, and the book written by St. John of the Cross about the dark night of the soul. And in it he wrote, with nothing more than the light of my soul to guide me, I found my way through the dark night of the soul. Sometimes I believe that there is no answer. There's no, Dana, we're here, or this overwhelming embrace of God's love cocooning us in the what's next. It's the self-discovery of that which we are calling upon outside of us, by whatever name we call it, God, goddess, angels, allies, whatever it happens to be, ancestors, is actually within us. And I think that that's probably the greatest faith that we can come to in our given lifetime, is to understand all of those concepts and archetypes that we cry out to are actually contained within us. And the alchemy of it is when we cry out to it, what's within us responds.
Exactly. Because it's our inner ear that hears our inner voice.
Yes.
It's our heart that hears our heartbeat.
Yes.
It is our soul that says, here we are, help. And my conduit from my soul to me, to the universe, needs to realize I exist. Mm-hmm. So that might to get up, the recovery of, oh my God, I can roll over. Mm-hmm. Okay, there is another day. And I have to be honest here, because there are those that in the overwhelm or in the pain have decided or are taken into that place of suicide or implosion. Mm-hmm. and need to go into recovery, need to go into treatment centers, need to go into asylums, need the help of medication, or need to be held so that they're safe from themselves.
Yes. Because
doubt is lethal.
Yes.
When it becomes overwhelming.
Yes.
And it steals your life. and then it steals, or it could steal the life of others. So this topic is so profound. Now, even in this moment, I'm realizing the voice even said, let's talk about this. Because right now, so many people are doubting. It goes right back to the beginning of the show. And we have the right to doubt. There's a lot of chaos going on.
Yes.
But in that, it goes right back to this too shall pass, because everything does. And choose your side. Choose yourself. Choose your collective. Choose your faith. Choose to believe, because belief is a choice. Faith is a choice. And doubt is a choice. And the struggle with, I'm going to choose to believe that the sun's going to come up. That is faith. I'm going to choose to believe that I'm okay, even though I'm scared. That I'm okay, because nothing's happened. I'm scared, but nothing bad is happening. I'm scared, but I'm safe at the same time. And see that you're okay. One of the greatest things I ever came up with in my own therapeutic process was in a process called co-counseling. And I was trembling from some fear of whatever it was at that moment. I was 28, 29 years old. My knees were shaking. I was identifying with something that was traumatic. And all of a sudden, my therapist looked at me and said, but you're standing right here. You're talking. What do you know about that? And I looked at her and I said, that I'm okay. As I'm shaking, I'm okay. I'm okay. Because in that moment, the world didn't end. My life didn't end. Nobody abandoned me. Nobody got up and left the room. It was all okay for me to tremble. It was okay for me to express my fear. It was okay for me to identify this was scary and hurtful, and I'm okay even after I express it. It was good to get it off my back, out of my body.
Yeah.
To tell the secrets.
Yeah. Well, Sandy, it's the top of the hour, a little over the top of the hour. And I'm on my way to Ireland on Friday. And you are on your way to, is it Southern California or New Mexico?
I'm headed to San Francisco and wine country for 11 days. I'm going to go and perform the wedding of my quasi-godson, my best friend of 40-something years. Her son and I have a very deep and loving relationship, and I get to do his wedding on the 7th. So I'm going to go out and have sacred space in one of those moments of, my God, whoever thought time would be here? And here it is.
And here it is. All right. Well, with that, everybody, Lady Hawk is saying, I want to go. Well, that would be fun.
I know what you're saying, Lady Hawk.
With that, everybody, have a beautiful evening. Keep the faith. And keep the faith. What's the last word for you, Sandy?
Snap out of it.
Snap out of it.
No, the last word for me is, don't forget that there is love even in our darkest hour. Reach out and touch it.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful evening, and until next month, blessings be.
Blessings be. Good night.
Good night, everyone.